I see Rupesh. Rupesh, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? If you guys can hear me, we can start off. And if you have any questions, I'm good to take now. Bhavik? Bhavik, can we start off?
Yeah, Vishnu, yeah.
Okay, you have your people there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to start or wait for some more time?
Vishnu, we can start now.
Okay. All right. So let's start off. Before we start, if you people have any questions from your last classes, we can go ahead and discuss those questions now. Okay. All right. So let's go off. Let's start off. If you guys remember, we have launched two instances, right? And we did connect to those instances. One was a Linux instance, and another one was a Windows instance. So we looked at the pricing, we looked at the instance types, and we looked at the launch wizard. Okay, but we did not completely talk about all the steps in launching an instance. Right? We have launched an instance. We did connect to that instance after launching the instance. Today we will resume from there. Today we will look at all the steps involved while launching the instance. Right? Then we will look at volume, snapshots. During this weekend, we will try to cover most of EC2. Right? So let's start off. Okay, if you remember last time with just the launch wizard itself, I've created two instances. So I have two instances here, two identical instances. Okay, so let's go off. So the first screen, it asks for AMI, right? For the first screen, it asks for the type of the operating system that you're going to load, which is nothing but an AMI here. So I'm going to go with Amazon Linux. In the second screen, it's going to ask you for the type of the instance that you're going to use. Basically, instance types here, the hardware configuration on which your operating system should run. Okay, we're going with the T2.micro. And the next screen, you are saying how many instances you want to launch, and then which network they should be. By default, whenever you sign up for an AWS account, you will have a default VPC or a default network, one network spanning across the regions. If you guys remember, we talked about regions and availability zones, right? So if you recall it, right? So a region will have, if this is a region, right? If this is a region will have at least two availability zones, right? That means two different data centers, two different physically isolated data centers. For each of this region, you can have subnets, right? So this full region will have a VPC, right? You can also create VPCs later on, but every customer will have their own VPC. So even though AWS is a public cloud, every customer will have their own network. That means every customer is isolated, at least from network standpoint. Every customer is put into their own networks, so that say if I have an AWS account and if one of the student also has an AWS account, both of our machines will not be able to communicate to each other. They are in two different networks altogether. Okay, so that is what is here, the default VPC, and here the subnets are, again as I said, the subnets are nothing but the availability zones. If you are sure based on your requirement, you can decide in which availability zone you want your EC2 instance to be. Based on your requirement, you can choose. I don't have any requirement as such, no preference for me, so I'll just leave it as no preference. And after I launch the EC2 instance, I want to connect to the EC2 instance using a public IP, right? So I'm going to enable this so that my machine gets a public IP address. Okay. After this, we will talk about the IAM role later. Okay. Then you have another screen like shutdown behavior. If you select shutdown behavior to stop, so whenever you stop an instance, whenever you shut down an instance, it will just be brought down. It will be simply shut down. If I put it to shutdown behavior to terminate, right, I'm going to launch this instance as shutdown behavior terminate. Then what's going to happen is when you shut down an instance, it will automatically be deleted. Okay. Then you have a checkbox for termination protection against accidental termination. If you check this box, what's going to happen is, check this box. What's going to happen is, if you have an instance like this, right? If I want to terminate this instance, if I say terminate, you see this button disabled because for this instance, for the instance for which I wanted to delete, termination protection was enabled. Okay, termination protection was enabled. That's the reason. If this box is checked, so whenever you're trying to delete an instance, this button will be disabled, so that you accidentally don't terminate the instance. And then the main thing to remember is, if you delete an instance, you cannot get it back. There's no way to recover data from the instance. So you should be careful. And if you want to have a double check on that, you can check this box, right? I'm not going to, for this instance, I'm not going to check this box. And then there is another column for monitoring. If you want to enable something called as detailed monitoring, so this detailed monitoring is nothing but every instance that you launch in AWS will be launched by something called as CloudWatch, and the monitoring frequency is 5 minutes, right? So you launch an instance, then your CloudWatch or a monitoring tool, in our case, in AWS case, it is CloudWatch. So the monitoring tool keeps checking the state of your instance every 5 minutes. If you don't want that, if you want, say if my application is very critical application and I cannot afford a non-working period of 5 minutes, then probably I'll go for something called as detailed monitoring. But with this, you'll have to pay more money. So if you want that, you can select it, and then you have tenancy. If you want a separate hardware, you can go for dedicated tenancy. Then we will look at add storage. So in the add storage section, you're going to add a hard disk. You're going to add a hard disk to your system. But what type of hard disk should it be? Should it be a magnetic disk? Magnetic disk is a normal disk, normal hard drive. Then you have two types of other drives called as SSDs. One is called as a general purpose SSD, and another one is called as a provisioned IOPS. Right? With provisioned IOPS, you get to decide how many input-output operations per second you will get on your hard disk. For now, we'll go with the general purpose SSD. Then we'll, if you want to tag your instances, you can tag your instances based on your requirement. These instances are only for your identification. Right? I'm not going to tag the instances for now. In the next screen, we are going to look at something called as security groups. Right? If you guys know the port numbers, right? So normally the SSH, the network port numbers, the SSH traffic happens on port 22. That's the reason on the default security group, port 22 traffic is open. We'll also talk about security groups in a while, but for now, when you are launching an instance, port 22 is enabled. click on review and launch. You can review all the details that you have entered. Click on launch. Then it will ask you for the key pair, right? If you guys remember, I was talking about the key pair in the last class. So when you have to have a key pair with a Linux instance always, and that key pair should be with you forever. Okay. Once you launch a Linux instance, right, you will have to have this key pair to connect to that instance every time you want to connect. Okay. And what the key in the key pair, what you're going to get is a public key, and on the what you're going to get is a private key, and the public key for this private key will be there on the EC2 instance. So every time you want to connect your EC2 instance, you have to have this public key. Okay. So I'll click on launch instance. So my instance is launched. My instance is in launching state. If I look at this, my instance is getting launched. Right? So my instance is in a pending state. So whenever you launch an instance, right? If I can show you this instance life cycle. If I can show you AWS instance life cycle. Whenever you create an instance, the first state will be in pending state, as my instance is right now. Then the instance will come into the running state, right? When you decide to reboot the instance, it will go into the reboot state and again come back into the pending running state. If you decide to shut down your instance, right? If you decide to shut down your instance, it will go into the stop state and then stop state, right? Stopping state and then into stop state. But if you have enabled if you terminate the instance, if you terminate a running instance, it will automatically be shut down, then it's going to be deleted. Okay, this is a normal instance life cycle. Alright, so I have this instance created now, and this instance has all of the details here. You guys can have a look at it, what all details are here. So what you can do with this instance is you can connect. Will basically show you how to connect to the instance, and I've already talked about this, right? You can use your PuTTY client, PuTTY, to connect to the instance. We already know this. Okay, so what else you can do is, if you want a similar instance, all the settings to be same. I want to launch an instance with all the same settings, then I can click on launch more like this. So you will directly go to the last page, review and launch page. If I click on launch, it will ask you for a key pair, and if I go with this key pair, and if I click launch instance, another instance is going to be launched, right? So another instance with same settings, with all the same settings will be launched here. The only thing that you have to remember is only the settings will be replicated. Say if I have any data in this instance, say if I have installed 5 different packages on this instance, those packages will not come here. Only the launch settings will be same. If I say launch more like this, only the launch settings will be same, not the data in the hard drives. Okay. Then you can stop an instance. If I'm going to stop this instance, what's going to happen is it says, are you sure you want to stop these instances, right? So I want to stop this instance, yes. So if you guys remember, I have put it as shutdown behavior as terminate, right? So if I do a refresh, this instance is in stopping state, right? So as soon as it stopped, very shortly you should see it deleted. If I've set the setting correctly, it will automatically go into the terminated state. Okay. Right. So what else we can do? What else we can do? Instance state. You can stop an instance. You can start an instance. You can reboot an instance, and all of these things you can do. Right. Remember, for EC2 billing, if you stop an instance, your billing stops. Only the running hours will be calculated for EC2 hours. And if you remember, for the free tier, 750 hours of t2.micro instance you get for free, right? So if you stop an instance, the clock stops. Okay. And if I go to the instance settings, I can add tags. If I want to add more tags to this instance, I can add tags. Somebody has a message for me, Sanjay. Hello, sir. Good morning. I cannot understand all this because of I have uh, Sanjay, I would advise you to go through the videos that of the last session so that it will make easier for you, right? So Collaborate team is also recording this meeting. Be here and try to understand as much as you can for now. Then probably you can look at all the videos in sequence. Then everything will start making sense to you, right? I hope I answered your question. If anybody of you guys have any questions, you can raise your hand and I'll be able to answer your question. Somebody has raised a hand. Sanjay again. Yeah, Sanjay. Sanjay?
सर
Yeah, Sanjay.
हाँ एक्चुअली सर प्रॉब्लम ये हो रही है कि क्लास संडे में ये अटेंड नहीं किया था ना, तो आज आप जो भी कुछ करा रहे हैं वो मुझे नहीं ये अंडरस्टैंड नहीं हो रही है.
हाँ वो तो ठीक है लेकिन what we can do is I cannot start from the start again, right? इतने सारे लोग हैं ना, so I cannot go back to the first class now. So what you can do is कोलैबोरेट टीम ने ऑलरेडी आपको वीडियोस अपलोड कर दिए हैं वेबसाइट में. if you have access to the website, the LMS site, videos are there. Go ahead and watch the videos of first two classes and then watch the video of the third class. Then everything will make sense to you. आपको सब समझ में आ जाएगा बाद में. ठीक है? I hope that is satisfactory answer for you. Let's go forward with this. Okay. So what else you can do is you can add tags. As I said, you can add tags and say, for example, I've launched a t2.micro instance, right? While launching the instance, I've launched a t2.micro instance. So with t2.micro instance, what you get is a 1 processor and 1 GB RAM, right? Suddenly you realize that 1 processor and 1 GB RAM is not good enough for you. You want a bigger instance, right? You want 2 CPUs and 4 GB RAM, right? Then what you can do is you can change the type of the instance. But only thing that you have to keep in mind is if you want to change the type of the instance, your instance should be in a stop state, right? So one of my instances is in a stop state. So what I can do is I can go into actions and I can go into instance settings and I can click on change instance type, right? If I do this, I can again I'll get all the instances here. Based on your instance type requirement, you can choose. If I set it to t2.small and if I do apply, here you will see it, right? This current instance type is t2.small. So after you start this instance, only then you will have to pay money for t2.small. Until that, as long as your instance is in a shutdown state, you don't have to pay anything. Okay, so we have more instances here. So what else you can do? You can change the instance type and you have something like change termination protection. If I go into this and if I right now, if I want to delete this web server 1, if I want to terminate the instance, I cannot do it. This button is disabled. So if I still want to terminate the instance, the only way that I can do is I have to go into actions. I have to get in here and I have to go for change termination protection, and then it will give you a window asking whether you want to disable termination protection. If I say yes, disable, and now if I go into actions, instance settings, instance state and terminate, now this button is enabled. If I click on yes, so this instance will be deleted. Okay, that we have to look at it. This instance will be deleted shortly. So this instance is terminated. Okay, So what else you can do? You can instance settings, change shutdown behavior, right? So if I power on this machine, for example, now I have this machine. So let me change the instance type back to t2.small, t2.micro. So I'll change the instance type back to t2.micro, apply. So this is a t2.micro instance now. If I start the instance, I can start the instance. So the instance is in starting state, pending. So the instance is coming up. So let's give it a minute to come up. To just avoid the confusion, I'm changing this tag to WebServer2 because there was a WebServer1 which we deleted it. So now this is my WebServer2. I have to change the name tag. You can click here. If you go into tags, right now what I have is all of these tags for this machine, but only the name tag will be seen here. Okay, now my instance is running, right? If I say change shutdown behavior, and if I say terminate, right? And if my current action is to terminate, and if I say, if I go into the operating system and then if I shut it down, right? If this is my public IP address, right? So let's take the public IP address, and this is a Linux machine. So let's connect to it through PuTTY. So if you guys remember this, you have to choose your key, right? I have my key here, collabora.ppk, which I have created in the last class. So I'm going to connect to my EC2 instance using that key. Right, so I'll have to log in as EC2 user for the Amazon Linux machines, right? So now if I do sudo su minus is a Linux command to get the root access, right? So and to shut down an instance. In Windows, you click on Start Shutdown, right? In Linux, from the command line, if you want to shut down a machine, init0 is the command, right? If I shut down an instance, now if you look at it, very shortly, what's going to happen is this instance will be terminated, right? So if you want an instance to be terminated whenever you shut down a box, if you say shutdown behavior to terminate, whenever you shut down a EC2 instance, it will automatically be deleted. When you set it to stop, instances will be like this. When you shut it down, it will come into a stop state. When I have the shutdown behavior to be terminated, the instances will be shut down and then go into the terminated state, which is deleting the instance. Okay, so that instance, can't do anything more. So let's look at another instance. And now let's look at this instance or this instance, for example. Right. So what else you can do? Okay. Change. Okay. If you click on Get System Log, what's going to happen is what you're seeing is after the machine is on, after the machine is on the network, you're connecting to the machine over the internet, right, or over the network. But what happens behind the scenes is there is a virtual machine somewhere and there will be something on the screen coming up, right? So that screen is being shown here. Just in case if you have any errors while system is coming up, you will be able to show it. This is not important though, so we'll just leave that. All right. So next, what else you can do with this EC2 instances? You can create the image, right? So you can create your own AMI, right? Say for example, I have this machine here. Somebody has raised a hand. Okay, somebody else. It's Nikhil. Okay. Yeah, Nikhil.
Hey Vishnu, how are you?
I'm good.
Vishnu, can you please show the Linux command again?
To shut down?
Yeah.
Init0.
Yeah, because the screen is coming very small. So can you please enlarge the screen a little bit?
Linux screen is small?
This put it screen, yeah.
Okay. This is already done. Probably we'll connect. We'll keep connecting to the Linux instance, so don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. By the way, I'll just give you few Linux commands. I'm not going to teach you Linux here because this class is not for Linux.
I can
Right.
understand.
Yeah.
Just provide only those commands that are related to this course only. Okay.
Yeah. The same things you can do on a Windows machine also. I'm comfortable with Linux, so I'll keep
Okay.
showing you things on Linux. But the same things you can do on Windows as well. Like you can
Okay.
create a Windows machine, you can shut down. You know how to shut down a Windows instance, right? Click start and shut down the Windows. It's the same.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go. And anybody has any questions, they can raise their hands. I will be able to answer them. Okay. All right. So let's connect to our Linux instance. And this is my Linux instance, right? So let's take a new connection. So all I have to do is I have to click on new session. So it will ask me for the IP address and the key that I have to provide along with it. My key is collabora.ppk. Open. Right. So I'm connecting to my machine. Right. Now to get the root access, the command is sudo su minus. Okay, let me change the settings for your benefit. Change the settings. Is this visible now? Nikhil, is this visible now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So to get the root access, the command is sudo su minus, right? And this is the Linux box. This is a fresh Linux machine. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to install all the packages that I need. Now I'm starting new, right? I'm starting new on AWS. Now, say every of my Linux machine or Windows machine needs to have, say, some applications. Like, say, every Linux machine that I'm going to create should have something called as web server, right? So every machine that I'm going to launch should have a web server. But by default, I don't get the web server in the operating system. So okay. So in Linux, to install a web server, the command is, right? To install a web server, the command is yum install -y http d. Okay, this will install a package which is nothing but a web server. Okay, so it will install the package. So the web server is installed. Right now, to query all the packages that I have in my machine, is the command is rpm -qa. Okay, and grep is to filter a line or a character string from the list. The package that I installed is httpd, so I'm just checking if the package is there, right? So as I've installed the package, this packages are there. So I know that now this Linux server has this httpd package. Okay, so for example, my application also needs a couple of configuration files, right? I'm doing a cd to etc. etc is a folder, and in that folder, say I'm creating a, say, config folder. Okay, and under config folder, say I need four configuration files for my web server to work. I need some dummy. What I'm going to do now is creating some dummy files. But think of them as some important configuration files for you. So every time you launch an instance, you want these 4 configuration files to be there along with the HTTPD package, right? So I have done some, I've installed a package, I have created my configuration files, and now if I know that this is my correct server, right, if this is my golden image which can be replicated into all the other machines that I'm going to launch, so what I will have to do is I will have to click on this actions, click on image, click on create image, right? Just to show you, just to show you something here, I'll click on launch instances and I'll click on my AMIs. Right now you don't see anything, right? Right now you don't have anything. Let's come back to that screen in a moment. Go to image, click on create image. Right now it's going to ask you what should be your image name. My image name is going to be my AWS, sorry, or else I'll simply name it as AWS Linux. You can have anything that makes sense to you with HTTPD, right? Probably this makes sense to me. If this doesn't make sense to you, that's fine. You can name whatever you want. AWS with AWS, I'll say probably in description I'll be more precise. AWS Linux with HTTPD is going to be my name, right? The description for the instance, the description for the image, and after and when I'm taking the image, there is an actual server, right? This is the actual server from which I'm creating an image. So do you want to reboot or you don't want to reboot? If I don't check this, what's going to happen is it's not going to shut down the machine. It's not going to shut down the machine and then take an image. The best practice is always, if you want to take an image of a machine, shut down the machine, then take an image, right? So you should not check this box. If you think you need it, you can check that box. But only thing is, if you look at this information here, it says when enabled, Amazon EC2 does not shut down the instance before creating the image. When this option is used, file system integrity on the created image cannot be guaranteed. So it's up to you whether you want to go with it or not. And I'm saying that, so every time somebody launches a new machine with this AMI, I want the hard disk to be 10 GB. Okay, so the default size is 10 GB. I want that, and I'm going to click on create image. As soon as I did that, my machine got stopped because it is creating an image. So it has shut down my EC2 instance and then it is going to create an image. Okay. Now let's come back to this console again. If I click on launch instance now, and now if I click on my AMIs, you see this, right? So this is the AMI that I have created. Now if I'm going to select this and all the screens that follow along with it, T2.micro and subnets and all of these details, I'm going with all defaults, and at this screen if you see, it is, you're getting it as 10 GB. The default size is 10 GB, and if you remember properly, if I have my EC2 instances like this, if you remember properly, if I when I launched an instance with the Amazon Linux AMI, it was showing the default size to be 8 GB, right? Because my AMI has a setting saying that the default size should be at least 10 GB, so the size is 10 GB, right? You cannot go less than that. If you want to go more than that, you can, but we are not going to change it. We are going to just leave it as such. You can add tags, security groups, review and launch, and we are going to use the Keeper Collabra launch instance. What does it say? Okay, I think probably still it says AMI is pending and cannot be run. So it is still creating it. So let's click on retry. If I look at my AMI section, there is the place where all of your images will be listed. Next, after the instances will come here. But just to check the status of my AMI, I'm just coming here. It says pending, right? So as soon as it comes to active state, I can click a retry here, and it should be fine. We'll give it a couple of minutes, and by the time it should be done. Guys, I'm again saying, if anybody has any questions, they can raise their hands and I'll be able to answer these questions. Okay, now this is available state. So what does that mean is you can launch an instance with it. So I'm not going to run through all the screens. I'm simply going to click on retry failed task. And now this time I'm able to launch a new instance. If I come back to my EC2 console, and if I look at my running instances, right? So one of the instances is in pending state. So what does that mean is the instance is coming up, and this instance is going to have this public IP address. Right, so I'm going to use this IP address to connect to my EC2 instance. So for doing this, I have to click on this. I'll click on new session, and I'm going to give the IP address here, SSH auth browse, choose the file through which you're going to connect, click on open. Sometimes it will take a while for the machine to be completely up, and sometimes it connects immediately. So probably we hope that it gets connected. Still coming up. So what I can do is I can click on restart session. Probably this instance is still booting up, and this instance is up now. I logged in. Let me increase the font size. Change settings. Change the font size to 60. Okay. Now I logged into my machine and I took the root access. Now if I go into cd/etc, cd config was the folder that we created, right? And if I look at it, I have all the files which I created in this machine, right? I created all of those things in this machine, and I have also installed HTTPD package, right? I have also installed HTTPD package, right? So HTTPD package that I installed on this machine, then I converted that into an AMI. Now from that AMI, I am able to launch another instance, and so whatever the contents of that AMI will be there. That's a read-only copy, right? So from that read-only copy, you can keep provisioning the number of instances that you want. I hope now you guys understand what AMIs are. Okay, if anybody has any questions, you can ask me now. All right, so what else you can do with EC2 instances? We have looked at creating images. We will talk about security groups and these stuff later. And again, if you want to enable detailed monitoring, you can click on this. it will also say that enable retelling model for your instance to get the metrics for at 1 minute interval, but additional charges will apply. I don't want to go for that, so we'll come back for these things, right? So we'll come back for these things in a moment. So let's go forward and let's look at this AMI screen. This is a tab for AMIs, right? So let's look at this. This is the AMI. Okay, somebody has raised a hand. So let's go there. It's Nikhil. Yeah, Nikhil.
Which as you see that there is no guarantee of the image. Okay. So if my image got corrupted, how can I save that image? Is there any mechanism to save the image?
Okay. There was no guarantee of the image when I was creating an image, right? When I was set image, create image, and I'll give it some name, IMG or something like this, right? That's fine. Oops. What did I do? What is it? Okay, let's see it again. Image, create image. If you check this box, right? If I check this box, only then it is not guaranteed. If I don't check this box, it is fine.
So that means to while creating the image, we have to uncheck this no reboot box, no reboot option, right?
By default, it will be unchecked, right? But if you still say if your machine is very critical, very critical machine, and you cannot afford your downtime of even 1 minute on that machine, but you still want a image from that machine, right? So what you can do is you can click on this. It will create an image, but the quality of the image is not guaranteed. Okay.
Okay. So that's what you are trying to say, that if I uncheck the machine or uncheck the reboot option, the machine image quality was comparatively high than the
Hold on.
right?
By default, this will be unchecked. By default, this will be unchecked. If I check this box, then the image quality is not guaranteed. If I check this box while creating the image quality is not guaranteed.
Is there any particular reason behind that?
Particular reason behind that, say for example, okay, you have a hard drive, right? You have a hard drive. You are doing some IO, right? Sorry, you are doing some input-output transactions in your hard drive. You keep writing data to it, right? You keep writing data to it, and you read data from it. So while it is taking an image, what it does is it takes a copy of this hard drive, right? But if the data is continuously writing, then it might miss some transactions. Then it is not guaranteed. That's the reason.
Good job. Thank you, Vishnu.
Alright, so let's go forward. And now if I look at my AMIs, probably I should have 2 AMIs, right? So that I have created. Now with this AMIs, let's see what all you can do. Now with this AMIs, let's see what all you can do. If you click on launch, it will go to the second screen of launching an instance, because the first one you have already chosen, saying that my AMI is this AMI, right? So what else you can do with this AMI? You can launch. If you want a spot instance from this spot instance based on this AMI, you can go for spot request. Then if you don't want this AMI anymore, say for example, I don't want this AMI anymore. This I accidentally created this one, so I don't want this. So I'll click on continue. So very shortly, you see that this image will go away, right? It says because it's not there already. Right now, if I do a refresh, it's going away. At any moment, it will go away. Right. So what else you can do is you can register a new AMI. This is a very complicated process, registering a new AMI. So what you can do with registering a new AMI is, say if you have a virtual machine, if you have a VMware environment that you are set up, and you want to transfer that virtual machine into Amazon Cloud, you can do that by doing this, right? But this is very complex, so we will not get in there at this moment, right? So what else you can do is, say right now the region that I am in is in North Virginia, right? So let's go to Oregon. Now I'm in my Oregon region. Okay. Now I want to launch my instance here with the image that I have created. Right. So in Oregon, I want a EC2 machine with the image that I have created in Northern Virginia, right? So if I try doing that, if I click on launch instance in my AMIs, you don't see that here, right? It says you don't have any AMIs. So if you want something like that, then what you have to do is you have to click on this, right? You have to click on this AMI and click on copy AMI, right? Then it will ask you want to copy to where, to which region, right? So if, for example, if I'm going to select North Virginia and if I'm going to click on copy AMI, it will come up here. I click on copy AMI. Probably it will take a couple of minutes. It can take few minutes, but once it is done, you will be able to see your AMI in this region. In Oregon region, you will be able to see your AMI. Okay. All right. So let's not wait for that. We'll go forward. And what else you have is modify image permissions, right? Say I have two AWS accounts. Okay, if I have two AWS accounts, and or else say I'm a company and I have a sister company also, right? Two different accounts, basically two different accounts, and I want to share AMIs between those accounts. What I can do is I can provide the account number here. So if everybody of you would have created a AWS account, right? If I give your account number here, this AMI will be visible in your AMIs, right? Right now I can't show that to you because I just have one AWS account, but this is very easy. You guys can create two AWS accounts, get the account number, paste it here, click on add permissions. That's it. Your AMI will be visible two accounts, right? If you want to make this image public, and it will be visible in community AMIs, right? If you want to have something like that, you can click here. But I don't want to share this AMI with anybody at this moment, so I'm not checking that. Once you share the AMI, right? If you click on, say, if you have two accounts, and if you share AMI from one account to other account, in the other account, if you want to see that AMI, you have to select this filter. In private AMIs, you'll be able to see that. Okay. Right now, all I have is this one. So what else you can do? You can modify boot settings. So when you modify boot volume settings, so what this is going to do is whenever you are launching an instance from a command line, okay, whenever you're launching an instance from this console, web console, right? By default, if you guys remember it, if you guys remember the screen, let me show you the screen again. Let me show you the screen again. Amazon Linux AMI T2.micro, configure instance details, add storage. In this drop down, what do you want? Right? If you want in this drop down, if you want a general purpose SSD, always set as default boot volume. If I do this, so every time I try to launch an instance with that AMI, you will have that in this drop down. Okay. So that is all you can do with AMIs. Okay, so that is all you can do with the AMIs. bundle task is not for us. We'll leave the bundle task aside. Let's go to volumes. Okay, and if you guys have noticed, I have 3 images, right? 3 EC2 instances right now. 2 are all of these 3 are unnamed instances. They don't have any name tags, right? And if I look at my volumes, it will show me that I have currently 3 hard drives, and all of these hard drives are in use. That means all of these hard drives are being used, right? So for example, on this machine, right, on this machine, to list the number of drives in a Linux machine, the command is fdisk -l. Okay, with fdisk -l, you will be able to see how many hard drives are connected to my Linux machine. Currently, it says that I have one hard drive of 10.7 gigs. Okay. For example, I want to add another hard drive. In Windows, you have your C drive, D drive, E drive, like this, right? In same is the case with Windows. Same is the case with Linux. I want to have another hard drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a volume. Volume is nothing but hard drive. Create volume. Then again, it will ask you what type of volume you want. Whether you want a magnetic volume, which is a general purpose, the normal hard drive that you see in your everyday life. Other than that, there are 2 SSD options. One is a general purpose SSD. Another one is a provisioned IOPS. So with provisioned IOPS, you're going to get a guaranteed number of input-output operations per second. But we are going to go with a general purpose SSD, and it's going to ask you how much size of the hard disk should be, right? The size of the hard disk should be, say, 1 GB for now. I'm just launching a test instance, right? Test volume. And which zone you want? Your EC2 instance and your hard drive, right? If I create a, if I look at my EC2 console, and if I look at my instances, I have all of these instances in US East 1B availability zone, right? If I'm going to create a hard drive in US East 1A, so that wherever you have your EC2 instances, there you should launch your, there you should create your volume, right? So we'll click on create. So it's going to create a hard drive. It is going to create a hard drive in US East 1B. Right? Once this hard drive gets created, this hard drive is created and it is in available state. Right? So what does it mean is it is created, but it is not being used by any of the EC2 machines. So what I can do is I can click on actions. I can click on, now I have to attach this hard drive, connect this hard drive to a system. For doing that, I have to do is click on attach volume. Click on attach volume, and then if you click here, it will show you all the instances of US East 1B. Because the volume is in US East 1B, you can attach it to an instance in only in US East 1B availability zone. So you have to choose one of these instances that you have. So I want to attach to which one? So currently I'm connected to this machine, right? This machine has a public IP, a private IP address of 172. The best practice is always to attach tags. If you don't attach tags, it's going to get very, very confusing. Even with just 3 machines here, I'm not able to identify to which machine I'm connected to right now. The only way that I can identify is through the IP address, and this is the IP address that I'm looking at, and the instance ID is this one, 871. So I will select this, and it's going to attach the volume to this machine. If I click on attach, now if I come back to my EC2 instance, and now if I do a fdisk -l, instead of one drive of 10.7 gigs, now you see 2 drives. Disk in Linux, disk names are like this, right? Disk XVDA, another drive is disk XVDF. So I have 2 hard drives connected to my machine now. Okay. In this way, you can create disks, and you can attach the disk to a machine. Then you can also say, once you think that you don't need this disk anymore, right? Then what you can do is you can click on detach volume. If I don't want this hard drive any longer connected to this machine, I can click on detach. Now what's going to happen is this will change into available state. Now if I come back to this machine and if I do fdisk -l, now I see only one hard drive. This one is no longer there. So I have connected a volume to my machine and I also have disconnected the volume. Okay. So if I don't need this volume, I can click on delete the volume. If I say yes, that volume will be deleted forever. The volume is gone. Okay. Let's create another volume. Even this time it's going to be 1 GB. Let's click on create. So that volume is gone, and now it is creating a new volume. So what else you can do with volumes? Let's see. You can delete, attach, detach, force detach. Right? Force detach is forcefully detach. Even if somebody is accessing it, you want to detach it. Right? You can detach it. Alright. Then there is another option like create snapshot. Right? So before understanding that, so let's connect this volume to my machine. This is my machine, so I'm going to connect that hard drive. Right? So I've connected that hard drive. Now if I do fdisk -l, now I see two hard drives. One is of 10 GB, another is of 1 GB or 1073 MB, approximately equivalent to 1 GB. If you guys have ever used a new hard drive, so the first thing that you have to do is you have to create a file system on the hard drive, right? Without the file system, you will not be able to write files on a hard disk. Whenever you get a new hard disk, what you do is you create a file system. Only then you will be able to write data onto the file system. Even in Windows, if you connect a new, if you have a new pen drive and you have connected to your machine, the very first time, you have to create a file system on it. Only then you will be able to use it. So in the same way, there's a new hard drive, right? So what you have to do is you have to create file system on it. In Linux, the command is mkfs, make file system, mkfs, and the device name. The device name is xvdf. Right? It has created a file system. File system is created. Now I want to use it. If you want to use it in Linux, you have to mount it. Okay, mount is attaching the drive to the operating system. Okay, say in any of the drives you can mount it. Now my hard drive is connected at /mnt. In Windows you have C:/D:. Say whenever you get a new pen drive and you put that pen and you attach that pen drive to your a Windows machine, it's going to give a new drive, right? Like D:/E: or something like that. In a similar way, instead of the D:/E:, what I have done is I have connected my new hard drive to /mnt folder. So now what I can do is I can say if I want to copy some data, right? I want to copy some, say for example, I want to copy everything in /etc to /mnt. So I'm just copying folders of my etc contents of etc folder into mnt. Right, so it would have copied something. Now if I do a cd/mnt, if I do ls, I have so many things here. Earlier it would be empty. Now I have so many things here which have been copied from the etc folder, right? Right. So what we have here, what now we can do is we can create something called as a snapshot, right? You can create something called as a snapshot. So all the contents, right? So for example, these are all the contents of your volume of /mnt. Now if I take a snapshot of this volume, right? Now if I take a snapshot, say my etc snap, and if I say create, it's going to create a snapshot, and that snapshots will be here. We'll come back to the snapshots. So you can create a snapshot from here. Go into actions, create snapshot. So whatever disk you want to create a snapshot, click on create snapshot, and that's going to create a snapshot. Okay, let's come to snapshots now. So what you can do with snapshots is, you have a hard drive and you want to make a complete copy of the hard drive. Snapshots is the way. Okay. So let's see what you can do with the snapshots. Let this snapshot get created. Let's give it a moment. Okay, my snapshot is created. Right, my snapshot is created. And now what I can do is I can delete this snapshot. If I don't think I need this snapshot anymore, I can delete the snapshot, or else I can create a volume. I can convert this snapshot into a volume. I have this snapshot, right? I have this snapshot. Now, for example, in MNT, in this hard drive, I have all of this content, right? Say, for example, accidentally, I have deleted everything here, or else accidentally I have deleted some files like this. That was done by accident. Okay. That's it. So all of these files are gone now. Right? So all of these files have been deleted now. Now I want those files back. So how do I do it? Is there a way to do it from the operating system? There is no way to do it from the operating system. But luckily what we have done is, we have created a snapshot. So from this snapshot, I can create a volume. So what I can do is I can click on create volume, and it's going to ask you from the snapshot, it's going to create a volume, what size of the volume you want and where you want this volume. I want in the same availability zone. If I say click on create, now if I go back to volumes, I do see a new volume being created. And if you look at this column here, earlier when I created the volume, this column was empty because that was a blank hard drive. Now when I'm creating this hard drive, I'm creating it from a snapshot. Okay, so all the contents of this snapshot, the snapshot number you see here, right? The snapshot number is nothing but the snapshot that I have here, right? This is a snapshot. So this volume will have a copy of the contents of this snapshot. Now I have this 1 GB volume, right? Now what I can do is I can attach this volume to my system, right? I have my system here running, so I'll click on attach. Now if I come back to this machine here, I have attached another hard disk also to this machine. Now if I do a fdisk -l, what I see is I have 1, 2, 3 hard drives connected to my system. So now what I have to do is I have to assign a drive letter, like D::E:, we have to assign a drive letter. Say for example, I'm going to create something called as MNT1. Now this volume has contents on it. So I should not create a file system. If I create a file system, all those contents will be erased. So I should not do that. So what I have to do is I have to simply attach. I have to mount it, right? XVDG and /MNT1. Now if I do a CD/MNT1, now if I do a ls, right? You see all of this, these files will be deleted, right? Some of these files will be deleted, but those files are here. Okay, so the snapshot is going to be a read-only copy of all of your files, right? So from that snapshot you can recover data. If you have made a mistake and if you want to recover the data with the snapshots, you can do it. I hope you guys got it, what I'm trying to explain. All right, let's go forward. If I want to create an image from the snapshot, I can do that. If I want to copy the snapshot, right? Say I have my snapshot in Northern Virginia. I want to copy the snapshots. Or example, let's take this. Say I have a volume here. I want to copy this volume from North Virginia to Oregon or another any other region. There is no way I can do that. You cannot copy a volume. So what you have to do is you have to create a snapshot. Once you have a snapshot, once you create a snapshot, then you can copy the snapshot to a different region, to any region that you want. Say if I say copy the snapshot to Oregon, and if I say copy, so this snapshot will be copied into Oregon region. Now if I go into this data center, let's go to Oregon and see what is there. Let's go to Oregon. Now if I'm on EC2, and now if I look at my volumes, or sorry, it should be in snapshots, right? If you look at it, copied, pending. So it is copying it from Virginia to Oregon. So once it creates it, then what you can do with the snapshot is you can again convert that snapshot to a volume. So to copy a volume, create the volume to a snapshot, copy the snapshot, convert the snapshot to volume. Okay. Then what you can do is you can give permissions also, like AMIs. I said you right. You can share the AMIs between two accounts. In a similar way, you can also share the snapshots also between two accounts, or you can make the snapshot public. Right? You just punch in your account number and click on add permissions. Then that snapshot will be shared by others. Okay, other accounts. Anybody has any questions? Okay, let's go forward. This snapshot is keep creating. We'll not wait for that. We'll go forward. Okay, so let's continue with security groups. Right. So while launching the instance, whenever it was asking about the security groups, we were simply clicking next, next, next. Right. We never bothered about what exactly it was talking about. So let's look at the launch wizard again. Let's look at the launch wizard again. This time we will concentrate on what is it asking at the security group. Okay. Let's click on launch instance. So the first screen we know it's about AMI. So select the AMI that you want. Then in the second screen, we are going to choose the hardware type we want. Click on configure instance detail. Then all these details you guys know already. So next, add storage. What's the storage that you want to allocate? And tag instance. And the sixth screen is nothing but security group, right? Say for example, I have a EC2 instance here, right? I have a EC2 instance. This is my EC2 instance, and I also have internet. So anybody, so far how we are doing this? My PC is somewhere here. I'm somewhere here, right? I'm going through internet. Doing SSH, connecting to my machine, right? This is what I've been doing, but the way I'm connecting is through SSH. SSH is a protocol and it's also a port, right? If you guys know, it's a port. SSH is a port. HTTP is a port, right? So if you want to view a web server, the port is 80, right? web server port is 80. In a similar way, SSH port is 80. So before reaching to your EC2 instance, there is something called as security group. Okay. So by default, what this security group does is it doesn't allow any traffic to come to your instance, right? It doesn't allow any traffic to come to your instance. What it does is it basically drops all the traffic here. But if I have a security group which doesn't allow any traffic, and if I have an instance here, nobody will be able to connect to it. Then what's the use of the instance? Then there is no use of this instance. So what it is doing is, while creating this security group, if you don't change anything, and if you look at this, right, it is creating a rule in the security group saying port SSH, right? SSH port is 22. So TCP port is 22, and where it should allow the traffic from, right? Where is this source should be from? If I know a specific address, if I know a specific address of my computer, my internet connection, or my laptop right now, then I can say allow only connections from my port, my internet. Even you people are somewhere here on the internet, right? Even you people will be somewhere here on the internet. Even if you want to connect, right? Everybody of us will connect to internet, and from internet through the security group, it's actually allowing you to connect your EC2 instance. If I do settings like this, right, what I'm saying is allow SSH traffic from anywhere. So what is now going to happen is, even from your laptops also you'll be able to connect to my EC2 instance, provided you have the key file, the collaborative key file that I'm using. If you have that key file, even you should be able to log into my EC2 instance. But if I don't want you guys to connect, right, I don't want you guys to connect, only I should connect to my instance, then I can say my IP, right? So this is currently my internet IP address. Okay, then what's going to happen is, you guys, even if you try connecting here, you will come till here, but your packets, your SSH, say you guys are coming from here now, you will not be able to get through. All of you guys will get stopped here, right here. Only I will be able to go and talk to my machine, because I have said allow on port 22 and allow only from this IP address, right? Now if you look at it, say for example, I have another service also running, like web server, which operates on port 80, right? Now even from my machine, if I want to connect to port 80, now I'm trying to connect on port 80 by opening a browser. Say if you open a browser and say if you type any site, what you do is you normally connect to HTTP, right? HTTP port, 80 port. So if you don't want, say if you, with this rule right now, with the rule that I'm defining right now, it allows only SSH traffic. Even from my IP, I'll not be able to connect over internet. I'll not be able to connect to any other port other than port 22, right? So if I want to allow port 80 traffic also, or any other traffic, then what I have to do is I have to select a port, select a required port like HTTP port or a HTTPS port or a MySQL port. These are all famous ports, right? These are all popular ports. Always network communication between two systems happens only on the ports, right? That is the fundamental of a system networking or a system. Or else you want to allow traffic, any traffic from anywhere. If I'm going to choose this, it doesn't care which port, which port you are coming from. If I say anywhere, now anybody will be able to connect to my instance on any port. So what's going to happen is, on my instance, anybody can do an attack, right? So you should be careful with rules like this, right? should be very careful if you're going to have any rules like that. So you don't have to create a security group while creating every instance, right? Till now what we have been doing is click on review and launch. So it is every time you are creating a new instance, it was creating a new security group. That's the reason you see all of this: launch wizard 1, launch wizard 3, launch wizard 4, launch wizard, all of this, because we have till now, I think we have launched some 4 instances, and every time we used to click next. So for every time it's creating a new security group. But every instance having different security group, it's going to make life very difficult after some time, right? So say for example, I have 10 servers here. I have 10 servers here. Say for example, I have just 3 servers for now, right? Now I have defined a rule for opening 4 ports on this security group. The same ports can be open on this machine also. Then simply what I can do is I can attach this security group to these machines also. I don't have to have individual security groups, right? So what we can do is we can create a security group from here. Click on create security group. Give a name to it. Probably I'll say only SSH. I'm going to allow only SSH, right? And this will be in this security group will be there in this network. And now you have to add a rule saying what, from which port you want to allow traffic. Say I want to allow on SSH, from where, right? For now I'll say anywhere, because I want you guys to notice this, right? I'll say create. Just give a description. Whatever you think is good, just give the description. Click on create. Right, I have created a security group as only SSH. Now if I come back to, I'm not going to launch another instance. Now if I come back to my EC2, click on instances. Now if I'm going to click on this, click on actions, network, change security groups. If I'm going to do this, now it's going to ask you which security group this instance should be part of. I don't want to use this defaults. I want to be more organized. So I know that this only allows SSH traffic, so I'm going to choose that, right? Now if you guys want to try this, you can try this out, right? Now you can click on new session, or you can open your PuTTY and you can put in this IP address and you can click on open, right? At least you should come to this screen. Even new people should be able to, even though you don't have username and password, but it should be at the login prompt, right? If you guys want to try, you can try now, because now I'm going to disable your access. Now I'm going to enable the security group to allow traffic only from my IP address, right? If you guys want to try now, you can try. You should see the login prompt. After the change that I'm going to do, you'll not even get to this prompt. Okay, I hope you guys have already tried it. So let's go forward with this. Now what I'm going to do is, instead of say, what I'll do is edit inbound rules, right? I'll change this rule. I'll change it saying only my IP. Only my IP should be allowed. Now if I'm going to save this, now if you guys try this, you'll not even be able to do a SSH to this machine or this IP address 5291.252.181. You'll not even be able to get to this prompt. Okay. In a similar way, what else you can do? Probably I'll show you a couple of more rules. Probably that will make more sense. I'll say edit inbound rules. Click on add a rule. I want to ping my machine, right? I have. If I look at, let me take you back to the EC2 console. I have my instance here, right? This is my instance, right? This is my instance. Now if I try to ping it. We'll try to ping. I'm trying to ping my EC2 instance. If I'm trying pinging, it is failing, right? It is not going through, because in the security group, as of now, the only traffic that allowed is SSH. But now I'm going to make a change to it. Now I want all the ping is a ICMP, right? If you guys don't know about it, don't worry about it. Just select ICMP here, and it will ask you from which IP address. Probably for now I'll say anywhere, and click on save. As soon as I do this, now it should. Now if you look at it, ping is working. Now it is getting a reply, right? If you want to guys try, if you guys want to try, you can also ping to this IP address, but you will not be able to do SSH, because in the inbound rules I've clearly defined saying that SSH should be allowed only from my IP address, and ping can be done from anywhere. 0.0.0/0 is anywhere, any IP address. Okay. I hope this is making sense to you guys. So let's go forward. So what else you can do? You can create rules, delete rules. All these are inbound rules. Normally you don't care about outbound rules, because you don't care where, say, you always be more concerned about packet that is coming into your EC2 instance. You normally don't care much about packet going out of your EC2 instance, right? So you don't have any outbound rules. Generally, you do not have any outbound rules at this level, right? Let's go forward looking at it. So you can have inbound rules, outbound rules, and you can copy to new. Say if I have 100 rules defined in this security group, I want all of these 100 rules plus one more rule, right? Then instead of defining all of those 100 rules manually, you can copy to new, and then you can change it. Okay. All right. So that's with the security groups. If you guys have any questions, I can answer it now. All right. So let's go forward. Let's talk about something called as elastic IPs. Right. All right. So I have said this is my IP address, right? So let's look at this. Let's stop the instance. This is my IP address. If you guys want to note, let's make a small note of it. This is the IP address of my machine, right? Now, when I stop it, I'm just stopping it. Right, my instance is stopped. This instance is stopped. Now I want to power it on again. Before power off, my IP address was this, right? So after I power on, look at the IP address. Give me a moment. I'll get some water and come back. In 1 minute, I'm going to come back. So what is the IP address that I have is this one, right? Now we look at it. My current IP address is this one. So every time if I'm going to stop the server and start it, and if the IP address is going to change, right? Every time this is going to happen. Say you want to host your company's website on this server, right? You want to host your company's website on this server, and every time if the IP address is changing like this, you cannot host a web server, because say if your company's name is something like www.asd.com, right? Your company's name is this, right? In the DNS, you specify saying that whenever somebody visits www.asd.com, say probably come to this IP address, right? And say whenever you type google.com, you go to IP address, right? In a similar way, whenever somebody types asd.com, they come to this IP address. But if I reboot and this IP address is changed, then if somebody is trying to reach to asd.com, they will not be able to reach to this IP address. This IP address will change. Then you have a problem, right? To overcome this problem, what you have is called as elastic IP addresses. Okay, so with elastic IP addresses, what you can do is you can have a fixed IP for your machine, right? You can have a fixed IP for your machine. So let's see how to do it. So all you have to do is you have to click on allocate new IP address, allocate new address, click on yes, allocate, right? Now I see that I have a elastic IP that has been given to my account, right? So with this elastic IP, now what I can do is I can give this IP address to a machine. So I'll say allocate, I'll say associate address, then I'll have to choose which instance you want to associate, right? Say for example, I'm going to associate this IP address to this machine, something ending E8B, right? I'll click on associate. Now if I come back to my EC2 console, I have two running instances, right? I have allocated that machine, I've associated that elastic IP to this machine. And now if you look at it, it says elastic IP is this and my public IP is this. Now let's stop this machine like last time we did, right? Let's stop this machine. Okay, this instance is stopped, right? This instance is stopped. Now, but still I have this IP address. Now, even if I start the instance, I'll still have that IP address associated with my machine. So, elastic IPs are used to have a constant IP address with your instances. But elastic IPs doesn't come free. So that's the reason you have to decide whether you want an elastic IP address or not for your machine. Okay. So all you do is come into elastic IPs, allocate new address, then go into actions and associate address. Right. Now you have decided that you no longer need this IP address. Right. So what you can do is you can click on disassociate IP address. Right. Or else there is another use case also. Say for example, I have a server, right? This server has been my web server for say last 1 year, and this has a IP address. So let's take a small box indicating an IP address. Say this is my IP address. This is my elastic IP address. Okay, this server has been my web server for past 1 year. Now I'm doing some upgrades. So I'm doing my website upgradation. Okay, so what I did is I got a brand new server with a better website, right? So my new website is here. Till now, everybody coming from internet was talking to this server over this IP address. Now suddenly I decide that I want to go for my new website from tomorrow. My new website is ready. All that is pending is just to launch it. Okay. So what I can do is I can take this elastic IP address from here, right? This elastic IP, I can take it from here and I can put it here, right? Same this elastic IP, I can somehow I'm not able to draw it, but what I can do is I can have my elastic IP moved from here to here. Then all of your traffic will directly come here, right? So I can associate an IP address, I can disassociate an IP address, and then I can switch into another EC2 instance, like we will see it now, right? So I have this IP address, right? So now if you look at it, I have two EC2 machines. Right? Now my current elastic IP address is with this machine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this IP address to this machine. So how do you do it? Very simple. Go into actions, click on disassociate, yes, disassociate, but you still have the IP address under your elastic IP addresses. So the next thing that you have to do is again you have to associate IP address. This time select the next instance. My next instance is 871, right? 871. If I say associate, now if I do a refresh here, right, this IP address has moved from this machine to this machine. So in this way you can move your elastic IP to move from one server to another server also. Okay. Once you think you no longer need the IP address, so all you can do is you can click on disassociate address. So this will come into the available state. You can click on this. You just don't want this IP address anymore. You can click on release address, because if you have an IP address and if the IP address is not attached to any EC2 instances, then that will be charged. If you have an elastic IP address and if that elastic IP address is attached to a running EC2 instance, it will not be charged, right? But if you have an IP address and you haven't attached to any of the running EC2 instance, then for that elastic IP address you will have to pay money, right? So that's the reason you get an IP address, and if you don't think you no longer need it, you'll release it. Okay. Any questions? All right. If anybody has any questions, they can raise their hand and I'll be able to answer your questions. Okay, let's go forward. We're also not going to look at placement groups. Let's look at key pairs. Right. So key pairs is nothing interesting here. All you can do is you can create a new key pair. Say I'll say new. Right. As soon as I click on create key pair, it's going to download me a PEM file and it's going to have a public key file. So whenever I'm going to launch a new instance, in the drop down box I can now see new. So let's quickly have a look at that. Click on launch instance. Somebody has raised their hand. Let's go for it. Rupesh. Yeah, Rupesh.
Hello.
Yeah, Rupesh.
Hello. Yeah. Actually, elastic IP is somewhat like static IPs.
Yes. Yes.
So it's been associated only for servers, not for users, individuals.
IP is never for users, right? IP is always for machines.
Yeah. No, actually, I wanted to ask about this. We have seen about security groups, right?
Right.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
So वहाँ पे हमने IP दिए थे सर, right? कुछ ब्लॉक करने के लिए, ये अलो करने के लिए. Hello.
हाँ बोलिए.
So actually I wanted to ask you about in that case. Hello.
मुझे समझ में नहीं आया. I did not get it. What you're trying to ask.
एक्चुअली वहाँ पे हमने IP देके अलो किया था SSH थ्रू, राइट?
वहाँ पे हमने सोर्स IP दे रहे थे.
अच्छा अच्छा.
सोर्स.
ओके.
Okay, not the destination. वहाँ पे हम सिर्फ सोर्स दे रहे थे, not the destination. Okay. आप वहाँ पे क्लासरूम में हो क्या?
नो सर.
ओके. पूछ रहा हूँ. ठीक है. Okay, let's go forward. Let's select the AMI that we want, right? I'm not going to show you everything here, so I'm just going to go forward. Click on review and launch. Right? If you click on launch, now under the key pair, I should see my new. Right? You don't have to key pairs only. You don't have to create key pairs only when you're launching the instance, but you can also have key pairs created here, and then you can also associate them with the machines. Okay. Let's go forward. There is nothing much in key pairs other than that. Let's look at network interfaces. Okay. Say I want more than one network interface for my machine. Right? Like we have created 2 hard drives for a machine, right? In a similar way, I want more than one network interface for my machine. So this is the place where you're going to do it. So all you have to do is you have to click on create network interface, right? You can have some description if you want. If you don't want description, that's fine. But you have to select a subnet, right? Now if I want another interface to one of these machines that I have here, I have 2 or 3 machines here. So let's look at that. I have 2 running instances, right? So I have these 2 machines here. Now if I want to attach one more network card, now if I look at it, if I scroll down here, it will basically show me that I have one network interface that is called as ETH0, right? I want to have more than one network interface on my machine. So what I will have to do is I will have to attach a new interface, but before creating that interface, make sure that even that interface is in the same availability zone. Okay, because this interface is in US East 1B. Same like your hard drives. If you're creating a new hard drive, you should always make sure that the hard drive and the EC2 instance are in same availability zone. In a similar way, make sure that your EC2 instance and the network interface that you want to attach should also be in the same availability zone. If you want a specific private IP address, while launching the instance, you see that you always get this private IP address, right? And this private IP address will be very much part of your, if you concentrate looking around, it will be part of your VPN, or it will be part of your VPC, a bigger network, right? If you want a specific IP address in this private IP addresses, you can associate it, but that is optional, so just leave that. And under which security group, right? Under which security group this interface should be. If I say yes, create, and I've selected one of the security group that we created. If I say yes, create, now I am able to have an extra interface which is in available state. So all I have to do is I have to click on attach, or you can attach it even from here. Click on attach. Okay, and it will ask you to which instance you want to attach this interface, right? I'll attach it to probably 871, which is in running state. Right now, if I want to know if I can connect back to my 871. 871 is this one. And now if I can connect back to this instance. Now if I do a ifconfig, I have two interfaces, ETH0, ETH1. ETH0, ETH1 is nothing but two interfaces. Okay. Earlier, if you don't attach an extra interface, there will be only one network interface card. Right? For some reason, you decide that you want to have more than one network interface, then you can do it like this, like what we have done. Right now, if you look at this instance and if you scroll down, you see that you have two interfaces, ETH0, ETH1, which is nothing but the two interfaces connected to your machine. Okay. So what else you can do? You can detach it, means you can remove the network card, like we remove the volume. You can detach. After you detach, you can delete it. If you want to have a specific private IP address, you can go for a specific IP address. What else you can do? You can. That's pretty much that you can do. There is nothing much here like change security groups, right? That's pretty much you can do with your interfaces, network interfaces. I want to show you something now. Right? Say I'm connected to this machine, right? I'm connected to this machine. Now I want to host my website on this machine. Okay, it is very easy to do that. Let's see how to do it. Okay, I already have installed HTTPD. So what I already have my web server installed on this machine. So all I have to do is I have to start the web server. Okay, I'll start the web server. Then I'll create the index.html page. Right, index.html page is nothing but the first page of your website, like your home page, right? Whenever you visit a website, you'll land at the home page. It's nothing but like index.html. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a small message like welcome to my class, right? A small message, something like this. Okay, I have this message saved. Now this machine here, we are connected to 871 and we have done all of that stuff. Now if I open this, now if I try to open it, I should get it. If I try to open it here, I should get it, but I'll not get it because what we haven't done is we haven't created a rule saying allow port 80 traffic also. We haven't done that yet, right? If we want our website to be live, so what we have to do is we have to go into security groups, select the security group for which your EC2 instance is associated with. Say if I'm looking at this EC2 instance, it is associated with launch wizard 4, not only launch wizard 4. So I have to go to launch wizard 4 and modify the rules, or I can add a rule here. I can do either ways. I can modify a rule directly here. Let's do it this way. I'll add my rule here itself. So I'll say add rule. I'll say all HTTP traffic, right? So HTTP from anywhere. Save. Right? If I do anywhere save. Now if I look at it. Now look at this. Welcome to my class. So now what I'm doing is I'm connecting to my web server over internet. I've written a small HTML page, but you can host your complete website. I can't do HTML coding, so I just have a text message. But if you can do your HTML coding, you can have a complete website running from a EC2 instance, and it's so easy, right? In this way, you can have your complete website running off a EC2 instance. All right, so let's go forward. Let's talk about something called as load balancers. Okay, let's get into load balancers. If you guys don't know about load balancer, let me try to explain the concept of load balancer for today. Probably, I don't know if you can look at load balancers now. If you cannot look at it, that's fine. We'll look at the load balancers tomorrow, but let's try to understand what load balancer is for today, right? I think I have explained it a couple of times, but I'll do that again for now. Say if this is my internet, right, and this is my web server, right, and there is some traffic coming from my web server to internet to my web server. But so this traffic currently is something like 1000 transactions per second, 1000 hits per second onto my website, which is running on one web server. And my web server has capacity to handle, say, for example, 2000 requests per second. But this traffic is going up. This pipe is increasing. The number of hits are going up. Say it's going to cross 2000. Once it crosses 2000, what's going to happen is your website is going to go down. But because your web server can handle only 2000 requests per second. Then what you can do to avoid a problems like this is, right, you can have something called as a load balancer. Okay, so this load balancer, and you can have more than one web server handling the traffic. So now if somebody has to come to your website, they'll come to the load balancer, and the load balancer will send first request to this server, second request to this server, third request to this server. So in this way, it keeps on sharing the load between these three servers. Okay, so that one web at any given point of time, one web server doesn't get overloaded. Okay, this you can achieve in load balances here. Somebody has a question. Rupesh. Yeah, Rupesh.
Yes, sir. We just saw the example of that .html page.
Yes.
Yeah. So we go to it through IP address, right?
Yeah.
So I think is there kind of provision for DNS conversion?
Yeah, we have something called as Route 53, and we are going to talk about it probably at the end of the course. We are going to talk about it. Then we will have something like your domain name. Let's say probably you can register your any domain, right? So for example, if this is your domain, you can say anybody coming into this domain should come to this IP address. That you can do it, but that's all later on.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think we can start load balances now because we just have 10 minutes to go. I think we'll stop here if you guys don't have any questions. And tomorrow we'll try to finish off the complete EC2. We'll try to finish off load balancers, and we'll try to finish off auto scaling also. Or even if it is you guys have some buffer of half an hour, tomorrow we will try to complete all of this. I'm just opening up everyone for questions. I've opened up everyone for questions. I've muted all. If anybody has any questions, they can raise their hands and I can take the questions now. I'm not seeing any raised hands, so I assume you guys don't have any questions. If you guys don't have any questions, I think we can meet tomorrow now. Okay. Bhavik, do you have any questions there?
Vishnu, nothing as of now.
Okay, because you have people there, right? So I'm just asking.
Okay.
Okay. Since nobody has any questions, probably we can call it a day now. All right, guys. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have some buffer for tomorrow. We will try to finish off load balancers and auto scaling. Right? I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. See you. Bye.